Welcome to Sumbits, where we decode the PowerSchool development experience. Sumbits is brought to you by MBA. Let's start the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sumbits, joined, as you can see, by the regulars, me, Ryan Cockrum, and Eric Scheidel. Welcome, everyone, to another episode. After the last episode, we kind of talked a little bit after the recording and realized that there was a couple more things that we wanted to talk about. We find out that summertime is really a great time to get into some projects, and we kind of wanted to continue the conversation. So as you can see by the title, this is going to be a part 2 to that episode. But before we really get into
Sean really just was like too lazy to come up with a new episode idea, and he was just like, "Hey guys, this is what we're gonna do." We're like, "No, Sean, no." And he's like, "Don't make me talk to you hard."
Follow the leader.
Okay,
Come
Sean,
on.
okay.
Well, let's get to the important stuff today. Drinking a little Whistle Pig Piggyback 6-year. It's 100% rye. If anybody's into rye and has not had Whistle Pig, I would definitely suggest it. It's a little bit nicer price point than the normal Whistle Pigs, but it's doing me pretty good so far. What are you guys drinking today?
And Whistle Pig is just fun to say.
It is.
Well, it really is.
What does Whistle Pig mean to you guys other than whiskey? Just out of curious.
That's all I got.
I just like get a vision of a Disney cartoon.
No, up here, Whistle Pig's it's a term for getting like a hot dog. I can't remember if it was a stand, like the Whistle Pig, but up here when I hear Whistle Pig, it means hot dog to me.
Oh.
Yeah, and I remember specifically it would be, I'm pretty sure it would be when you cut them in half, and lengthwise, and then fry them, and you serve them with onions and everything. And that's the way I grew up.
Delicious.
That's what my grandma would make them. They're so good. Yeah, just fried like regular Oscar Mayer wieners, whatever, just in the pan with onions. Oh, yeah.
Well, now I got to know from the audience, what does Whistle Pig mean to you?
Yes, please.
Comment down below, email us.
I want to hear
link.com.
Yeah. Whether you think it's appropriate or not, we'll screen that out. Just tell us what you think of Whistle Pig.
Great.
But as far as drinks go on my end here, so as some of you may be aware, depending how far back you've been watching, I've been getting into a little bit of bourbon because of Sean, and that's great. I've been enjoying it. But this time I went with a rye, I guess. See, I know I like Canadian rye, I love it. And bourbon so far, I love it. But Bullet, I've indulged in their bourbon, but I tried a 95% rye mash Bullet, and nothing against Bullet. I do like this, and I like their bourbon, but I think you should leave rye to Canada. I like my Canadian rye.
Unless it's Whistle Pig.
Well, I'm going to have to try it. I mean, I'll try anything. But I love your bourbon, and I mean, I would never say, hey, let's see what Canada can do to take a shot at bourbon, because, we got rye on lock. So, yeah.
Technically, they can't do bourbon because it's
that's true.
In the U.S.
That's true. And maybe
congratulations,
Canada
Brian.
needs to get tighter on what rye means.
All 2 of our Canadian listeners are loving you right now. And the other 2 American listeners are not happy with you.
We have a rabid fan base.
So, I actually just drained this one. This was really good, though. I found myself today with a Capital Brewery brew. This is a Munich Dark from Capital Brewery, which is actually just a stone's throw from where I'm sitting right now, Capital Brewery. So, friends, swing by Madison, Wisconsin, and say hi when you get a chance, and we'll go sit in the beer garden. And I'm just about to crack open another brew from Capital Brewery called
an amber.
Capital Amber. This one is the Bomb Diggity right here in Middleton, Wisconsin. I'd also like to, whilst I have the spotlight here for a moment, point out that I dug into the closet once again today, and I busted out myself a Hawaiian shirt. I did that for 2 reasons. Because number 2, we'll start with number 2, because this is a continuation of our what to do during summer. Number 1 is a shout out to a dear friend and our first guest ever on the Sumbits podcast, who is retiring today or tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
I
we said
believe
Thursday.
tomorrow is his last day.
Yeah.
The lazy man himself, ladies and gentlemen. A legend goes down in history. I'm sure we'll still be hearing more from him.
I'm
So,
glad
hey,
we had him on before
to
retirement.
John Dunleavy,
I'll cheers to that. John, congrats, man.
congratulations to you. And one more thing. Sorry, I'm drawing this out. But for those of our listeners who are also clients,
I'll allow
I
it.
was going to wear a different Hawaiian shirt today, and I couldn't find it. And then I realized it was in my laundry. And the reason is one of our coworkers, for anybody that works with MBA plugins and maybe has ever come across a lovely lady by the name of Allison. She was visiting me last week with her wonderful little Chihuahua Buddy, and Buddy barfed on the shirt that I was going to wear today. So I don't think Allison actually listens to these podcasts, so I would love it if any of you work with Allison from MBA. Make sure next time you talk to her, you give her a hard time for letting her Chihuahua barf on my Hawaiian shirt.
I don't know about the listeners, but I definitely will now. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. Again, we're in summer. Another thing to do, check yourself out a Cubs game if you're in the Chicago area or wherever they're traveling to. They're always a good team to watch. Anyway, it's summertime. What are some other things? I know last time we talked about really kind of working in some time for yourself to maybe work on some pet projects, maybe do some training, work on some training materials for your staff. But we had some other thoughts, and, Ryan, as we alluded to last time, actually brought notes to the podcast recording session last time. So we're going to start with him. What were some other things on your list there, Ryan, that we didn't get to last episode?
Well, one of the best things you can do when you're working in a district, especially if you're like the lone PowerSchool administrator, you're all by yourself, is you take your server down, say July 4th, 5th, 6th, take it down and leave it off for 2 weeks. And it works even better if you're working in your own office or you're working from home. Tell your superiors that you're hard at work trying to get it back up and you're trying to fix it. But then you go fishing. You go fishing, you go camping, do whatever. You got 2 weeks.
That'd have been a great April 1st episode, right?
That reminds me of the last time my boss gave me some of Ryan's code to fix. And it had taken him 5 weeks to write this program, and it was so messed up. And I just rewrote the code, and I was done in 5 hours, and I took the next 3 weeks to go fishing. It's a similar story.
Again, good thing nobody actually listens to us, right?
If you do listen to us, leave a comment below and tell us what you, you believe either of our stories there. But no, one of the things is we kind of talked about looking at your code, of course, or looking at code that you find, but also little things that you can do to help out your district and help out the users. So one of the early cool little nifty plugins that were beyond my skill set when I found it, but I just really appreciated it, was the closing sign for your public portal that you could get from the PowerSchool Exchange or the PowerSource Exchange. And I still remember in the description, I can't remember verbatim everything, but it said it has the sign gently blowing in the wind. And
I definitely use that in my district.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too, for sure, because it was nice. It was a nice little handy thing there, and stopped people from calling you, because you would disable the portal, of course, but people would only get an error, really. There wasn't much for telling them, explaining them outside of a newsletter that went home in June, and they've since forgotten about. So that was there. But then, you take the opportunity with that and say, could I ever use this anywhere else? Now, keep in mind, in this particular example, this predates the I forget what the word is, but server messages that you could have. PowerSchool now has a little place in the district or the system menus to put server messages, but that wasn't there back then. And so the first thing
Sorry, I
that
want to clarify. When you say server messages, you mean the login page message that
Yes.
you can customize. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good call. So those, and my immediate first thought when I saw this plugin was, like beyond, it being helpful for the public portal, was how can I make customizations pop up on the front page now, like on the login page? So, I mean, again, early on when I really didn't know, and I didn't know what I didn't know either, that was helpful. It was helpful for me to dissect. So we use that free time to not only build little things that you want to do to help, like, the summer experience, but find things that you think are helpful or cool and maybe have application somewhere else and dissect it, look into it, figure out what makes it tick. Because it's all there. All you need is a strong text editor, and we've definitely covered text editors in the past. So, and if you don't, like, I know Eric likes Sumbits. I use brackets. There's lots out there. We won't go diving into text editors here, but let's just say.
Wait, hold on. Let's just acknowledge.
Yes, thank you.
That Ryan, instead of referring to the text editor of its real name, Sublime, he called it Sumbits. There's a nice future project for us. We'll come up with our own text editor.
It's going to happen. Now we're going to find something open source.
I know, right?
That allows it. And it's going to be the Sumbits text editor. And every time you get an error, instead of a little red light, it'll be Eric's face.
Either a face of approval or a scowl.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
I was gonna kind of comment on that. Look, like a lot of us have used, especially people that don't code your own customizations. We've talked extensively about not reinventing the wheel and using other people's customizations, especially on PowerSource and Power Data Solutions and all that fun stuff. And I assume we've commented on this, but I want to make sure it's clarified that when you install a plugin or a customization of somebody else's, you still have access to that code through your custom page management or Steel like you would any other page in PowerSchool. So think about those customizations that you've applied to your PowerSchool. If there's like a certain look of a table on a certain customization that you like, go check it out. Go look at the code and see if that's something that you could apply somewhere else.
Yep. And I want to add to that as a bit of a throwback to the dark ages, because yes, you have access to that code, and you always did. But I think the first time I installed that swing sign was before it was plugins. It was still the zip, the WebRoot zip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I'll just reminisce on the fact that you used to have to install those plugins via that method. So there was no just let's disable this.
Yeah, right. Turn it on. Turn it off.
The only disable was, all right, let's find where every single one of these files is in my custom WebRoot and delete them now.
Yeah, reference that spreadsheet we all kept of all of the customized files.
And that is the nightmare that I've heard time and over again with the custom reports bundle. And this, don't get me wrong, this is no disrespect to Power Data Solutions or the custom reports bundle.
No,
it's a wonderful thing.
Use the options you have at the time, and that's always what
it was. Yeah, it was so popular, and there are so many people that had it before plugins were a thing. And it's just the best thing about plugins is those files are associated together now.
Yeah,
and it's not like, wow, where are all the pieces of this puzzle?
Yeah.
And just quickly, if you're still one of those people that are still using the old ones, summer's a great time to go through, get rid of those, and install the plugin version.
It's worth it if you can figure out too, which, like, especially if you're self-hosted, it's easy enough. But if you have something like a diff tool with a text editor, and you can do an export of your custom web directory and then compare it to a clean web route for PowerSchool, you get a really good idea of what you have and what you don't have, especially if you know like what's in a plugin and whatnot. You'll be able to identify stuff that either needs to be cleaned up and put in a plugin, or stuff that can be removed altogether.
And on that note, I do want to give a little shout out to Jim Parsons, who commented on the last episode that mentioned that if you are using Blue Steel CPM, they do have a built-in filter for not a plugin. And then you'd be able to export all of those files that have been customized but aren't part of a plugin. So
but also just the fact that it has that filter to select all the files within a single plugin.
Yeah.
Also a great reason to use it. I love Blue Steel. I mean, there's I've never alluded otherwise. I'm a big fan of it.
And actually, while we're on the note of Jim Parsons' comment, he did comment that that you shouldn't disable all your plugins unless it's a test server. He says doing so will reset any OAuth client IDs and secrets that third-party vendors will need. Jim, just letting you know, right before we started recording today, we did do a little testing on that, and by just disabling, and please confirm for me, Eric, but if you just disable and re-enable, it doesn't actually change the OAuth ID and secret. But if you delete the plugin and reinstall, it will change those that ID and secret.
So I'll say first of all, proceed at your own risk. Anyone who's listening,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
from the limited, the brief test that I did just before we started recording today. I disabled a plugin that had OAuth credentials. For anyone who's not familiar, the OAuth credentials are what's going to allow a third-party vendor to integrate with the PowerSchool API. I disabled a plugin, re-enabled it. It retained the original credentials. I'm fairly certain after my testing, the only time that's going to change is if you delete and reinstall.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jim, let us know what we're doing wrong, because we trust you.
Yeah. Well, and we tested that based on my recollection, and I was fairly certain that what Eric said was true, and that's what we tested that for. We didn't actually do a delete and reinstall, but yes, that is what I believe to be the only method, and it's because
Or this may be a great reason to get Jim on the show, so you can just go through all of the things that we've been wrong.
Hey, I like it.
I'm just going to say right now, we need to have Jim on the show. That guy, if you're listening, Jim, God bless you, man. He's just a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
In fact, one of the names that I brought up, I think during multiple episodes, is a guy by the name of Anthony Alisay.
Okay.
He is an instructor on the interwebs that Jim Parsons turned me on to in terms of learning JavaScript, and the guy's amazing. And thank you, Jim Parsons, for making me aware of his existence.
You turned him on.
No.
That's what I heard too. All right. Let's bring it back to the topic at hand. Eric, what do you got? Jim Parsons. What's a thought that you had for summer?
You know, it kind of harkens back and makes me think of another of our previous guests. And one of the things, probably the thing that sticks out most in my mind that anybody has ever said during this podcast, Nick Paranti, my good friend, my dear friend, my beloved Nick Paranti.
Eric's feeling awfully lovey today, isn't he?
I am.
He's really reminiscing today. Yep.
Right.
The Capital Brew has some aphrodisiac. But no, I honestly, I really love something that Nick Paranti said, which was, we always talk this technical stuff, but he said, I think our episode with him was for the noobs. I'm new to PowerSchool. What do I do? And Nick said, establish relationships. It wasn't like his first thought isn't, well, you got to learn all the technical stuff. Right. He's like, you have to establish relationships within your school district. So along those lines, what I'd like to say, if you find yourself with some time during those summer months, I think it's a perfect time to try to understand your coworkers and what their needs are and what the bottlenecks are and how you can make the district, how you can step back and look at the big picture and make the district as a whole or your school as a whole function more efficiently. What processes are being achieved outside of PowerSchool that could perhaps be integrated into PowerSchool? I was just telling Ryan and Sean before we started, when I have a little extra time on my hands, and granted it's few and far between, but I like to reach out to coworkers and say,
Nice save there, by the way.
I'll reach out to our support staff. I'll reach out to our sales staff. I'll reach out to our implementation folks, and I'll say, what in your experience is most important, is most needed? Where are our clients needing the certain features? And you're establishing relationships, and then hopefully solving a problem, endearing yourself to those people. I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's got to, because there are times when I've reached out and said, hey, I'm interested in what your needs are. And someone comes back with a 100-hour project, and I'm going, no, I meant something I could do for you tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that actually, sorry, I got
No,
more to
I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, so that actually, it's funny. That last phrase you had there does segue into another thing on my list of things to talk about here in a bit, in a way. But the main substance of your well put together point there is that, yeah, you got to figure out what your users are doing and what how they're using the product and how they're using the program and what they could benefit from if you added it or changed things. And from a district's point of view, when I used to work there, that's exactly what I did. Even before PowerSchool was our student information system. And I mean, this is, troubleshooting 101, of course, but I'd be like, hey, I just got to come and stand behind you and watch what you're trying, because they'd be like, this isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's doing this and it's not, whatever. All right, come here and show me what you're expecting to happen, or what you're telling me what you're expecting to happen, and the process you're doing and the steps, yada, yada. I'll learn. And then the same thing with PowerSchool eventually. Now, mind you, when it came to PowerSchool, I was the one they'd mostly come to. But when they needed something better, I would go occasionally and spend an hour or two at a random school with the secretary, show me what you're doing. And I'd watch and be like, you have to do it that way? Okay, okay, I'm going to write this down. Okay, I have a notebook, and I had a notebook that I would just write things in. Yeah. I'd be like, so-and-so is doing it this way because they have to, but if I could make it so that this was available or that was available, then they wouldn't have to. It would make life easier for everybody, And I would really take what they were doing and what they were telling me to heart. And I think that, forming those relationships in that respect not only helped them in the district, it helped me grow too, because it's like anyone who's in this customization. Well, and anyone who's in this customizations and development role at any point within PowerSchool or anything in general, you definitely have the expertise to deliver, but we can only be so creative, and when we don't know all the problems, we can solve the problems we're aware about, but you need to be doing something on a daily basis to become up problems within that system. So you got to have those things delivered to you. So it's like, give me your ideas and I'll give you solutions, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in that PowerSchool administrator position, especially through the school year, your main jobs are, reporting on the data that's inside of PowerSchool, or answering to maybe principals or the superintendent, or
storing grades.
Or these higher up, and it's the normal administrator jobs, right? One thing that summer allows you to do is kind of, and I think this is where you were going, Ryan, is, solving some of those nice to haves, right?
Exactly. You read my mind.
Yep. So, and we talk about these relationships, and obviously we are going to have a working relationship with the administrators, the principals, the superintendents, etc. A lot of times we miss out on those relationships with the secretaries, with the teachers, with the aides, and all of the other people that make the school work on a day-to-day basis. Obviously summer isn't necessarily the best time to find out what those pain points are. So maybe this is a good time to plan a way of gathering that information through the school year to so next summer you can really solve those pain points, or if you have free time through the school year. But no, set up something, processes, whether it's taking a day, a month, or whatever to walk around the school and talk to people and figure out what some of those pain points are. But yeah, I mean the summer is a great time to find some of those projects that are within your skill set, and get those things solved. And if it's not, part of your skill set, that's a great direction of where to go and what to learn more, whatever it's going to take to solve that problem.
One thing there that you kind of said that would definitely be untrue for me, but I can see your point, is that you don't want you might sometimes overlook talking to the secretaries because you're too busy dealing with the administrators and whatnot. My dad, as a school administrator himself, he's retired now. He told me years ago, he says, you always make sure you make friends with the secretaries of the schools, because there's the ones that run that whole freaking building. Really, Absolutely. At the end of the day, and they're the ones who know everything about that building. And I took that to heart, and I mean, I definitely made that. So I mean, I knew all the secretaries very well in my division, and I mean, he wasn't wrong. Like, if I needed to know something, or I knew, like, they're the people that needed that program more than anybody in that building. I mean, sure, teachers need it to enter grades and attendance, but that's a small part compared to what the secretaries are doing now at the top of that pile, dealing with all that information coming in, never mind phone calls and this and that.
No, Ryan, I'm right there with you, and I always made those relationships too. And one thing that I always told them was, if you ever found something in PowerSchool where you felt like it should work better or work differently, let me know.
That's nice.
So that they were empowered to know that they could produce change, right?
Yep.
A lot of people might think they're just the secretary, but like you said, they're the ones that are running the school on the day to day. So,
yep. And especially when it comes to, so like now that we're moving on to that nice to have project, so we talk to these people, whether we talk to secretaries, or maybe we're talking to administrators or even teachers, but people give you those nice to haves. And the nice thing about the nice to have list is, I think 9 times out of 10, when people have something they want that would fit the nice to have list, they literally start out with, it would be nice to have, or it would be nice if PowerSchool, so you don't even have to second guess too hard if something would be a nice to have or an actual urgent request.
It's actually stated as such.
Yeah, they will say it. And I mean, when I never dismissed anything people say. Like, I mean, if they said it'd be nice to have whatever, I was sure, let's see, I'll write it down and we'll see what we can do, because it's a nice to have. They're not saying I need this. Because if a secretary or whoever is showing me something that they're doing, and I think it's absolutely stupid what they're having to go through, I'll be like, that is dumb. I'm going back and fixing that right now. Like, I'm not, no, that's ridiculous. They're like, no. I'm like, no. Because first of all, they didn't start with, it would be nice if this didn't do this. They said, so this is what's happening, which means it's not a nice to have. It's a, this sucks, but they're not going to tell it to me that way. But I'm going to look at it and think about it and be like, that's awful. I'm going to go and fix it now.
Right.
I like something that I feel like you were both kind of touching on, and it's that we're not just talking, I think, about new features that you can create for your end users. It's understanding the end user experience for existing features. Yep. Whether it be a PowerSchool feature or a feature of something that you created to fill a need. I know myself as a developer, when I'm developing, you get so into the technicalities, and I try really hard to focus on end user experience. And what if they go here and then there and then there versus there and then here and then there? And you never think of all the scenarios. So looping back and not just saying, okay, there was this nice to have or need to have, and I delivered. And I think some developers, this maybe can be kind of a stereotype of developers, although I have to say most of the developers I know I don't think fall into this category, is like, well, I created this thing. It does amazing things. I am a god, and if you don't figure out how to use it, you're just dumb. But no, I think you have to step back and go, okay, I didn't think that someone might not just, this wasn't as intuitive as I thought it was. And understand the end user experience. There have been a million times where I go, I never thought anybody would do that.
Yeah.
But that person that did that isn't dumb, so somebody else is going to do it. Maybe I should have protected against that happening, or made this more clear, a sequence of steps. Now I feel like I'm meandering a lot, but understanding and caring about that end user experience is
very valid.
Is also a big part of not just like what other features do I need to build, but how do I make those existing features function better, more efficiently, and be less error prone.
Yeah, and it's hard to come up with all of that without having involvement from that user, in some way, shape, or form. Like as a developer, you want to do that. And like you're saying, most of the developers I know want to do that and make it as the best experience possible. And I mean, depending on the size of your development structure and everything like that, you would have roles specifically dedicated to that. But that's like, Microsoft level, right? But in this case, it's your users that are your best source of feedback when you deliver what they asked for, because we will deliver what, I'm not just specifically saying if you are getting something done by us. I'm just saying as a developer, we will deliver what's asked for. Yeah. And I'm not opposed to going, oh, okay, this is what you want now. Oh, okay. But the thing is that we will deliver what you asked for. And don't be shocked if it's all of a sudden now not what you asked for, and we go, but this is what you asked for. So we just want to be clear on that. And now we're going to say, okay, but you really maybe see the benefit of this. And I think when you first started out on this point, the first thing that came to mind as not like, new projects, but, the process and things that help the process. A simple example would be just a confirm delete button for some kind of UI, because a lot of times you'll create any type of plugin, something that you add records to, and then something that would allow you to delete records. But in any way, shape, or form, whether you're talking about something on an app on your phone, or you're literally talking about PowerSchool or just whatever, a one-touch delete is catastrophic. It's not a perfect idea. Symptom. You need something to confirm it, and I mean that's a user experience change that I think reduces stress for people that have to hover around that button all the time, because especially if the only way to recover the record is them re-entering everything manually. How annoying would that be? So I mean, and you can save them all that time and all that stress by having the confirm delete button. There's a perfect little enhancement that you could just add on for the user to just make their life better, and give you probably less work too of trying to figure out if that you can recover a record or not too. So
I love you kept on saying what they asked for, and I think that's part of having those conversations with your end users. Is, we do at the end of the day have to deliver what they ask for, but I think a good developer is going to ask the appropriate questions. I've literally said to clients before, my goal is to develop what you want, not what you asked for.
And it's a hard and fine line.
Oh gosh, it is. It really is, isn't it? But knowing when to ask the questions and say, look, I could do this, or we could go this route. And I oftentimes try to give my end users like tiers. And I realize this also depends upon, who the stakeholders are and how much time you have at your disposal. But, I'll tell
tiers as in TIERS, you're not crying on them.
Well, sometimes a little bit of both. But
1 tier, 2 tiers,
Yeah.
or 3 tiers.
but I'll tell people, I'll usually start with like, here's the quick and dirty approach. And if your goal is just to bang this out and get it done with minimal investment, I can do this. In a year from now, you're probably going to be coming back to me saying, but
update the year idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then I go, here's what I think might be more practical. And then I'll say, well, and if you want to go pie in the sky, here's what we can do for you. You know, and I realize that's also, you know, my perspective as a third party when someone comes to me with a budget. And that's going to be a different story when you working within a school district have your own budget in terms of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And stakeholders.
Even when you're working for the district, you're still budgeting. It's just not dollars. It's your hours, your time.
Which is a whole other bucket of fish, like too, right? Like, I mean, I think even for me, and that now I've been doing remote development for private for 5 years now. That was a transition piece there for me, you know, coming from doing my own projects or doing projects for the district, but you know, it was just my regular work week, and I just had other things that would come up as I needed to, versus now that's my thing. And now it's not the money necessarily that's completely directly at my hours, like just from my only boss. Now it's like all the different things, right? That's a change.
Sure. Let's bring it back to Ryan's list. Was there anything else on your list that we didn't get to the last time?
Well, we said, I mean, just quickly close out the nice to haves and list and whatever. Yeah. I always had 2 lists because you had, like I said, you'd have the things that you'd see someone doing and you'd be like, holy crap, they shouldn't have to be doing that. And you go and fix it. Then you have another list that is stuff you know that needs to be done, but it's just not going to fit into, you know, you might be in the middle of doing Power Scheduler, or it's, you know, it just might require too much time, but it's that list. Things you know need to get fixed, you know you're going to have to leave. And then there's the nice to haves, but it's that list. That's an important one to look at. I mean, both those lists, it's kind of like you're going to have your end of year, and then you're going to have your, you have your end of year validation, then you have your end of year, then you have all your setup and startup and whatever. But in the middle of those, when you have a little bit of lulls, that's when you look at those lists and go like, all right, what can I do with this? What can I do from here? Sure. But for me, and I mean, I was a 12-month employee, and so of course I was working over the summer, but the best time, of course, to get away from a district when you're supporting their technological infrastructure is in the summer, and that's when my district would try to get me to the conferences to begin with, and then as a Canadian, I really liked going to the February ones in Florida because hey, summer and winter. But but the thing is, the summer, like you want to, it's hard to apply the things you've learned at these conferences during the regular year, right? During the regular active year when there's teachers and there's secretaries and everything like that. But in the summer, there's your time. And I so recommend you do it. Even if it's just, I mean, you always get instructables and step-by-step examples from these conferences of the classes you've taken and what to do. And even if you're just going to completely redo what you did in that class, but in your own time, or you're going to just try to take the stuff you learned and apply it to your own new projects, that's such the best time to do it, because you'll learn it, and like anything, you know, practice makes perfect. You don't want to have to try to remember how to write a TILA SQL for your first time ever in the middle of state reporting, you know, when you realized it would help you. You know, if you took customizations 101 and you learned that T-list was a thing, T-list SQL was a thing, and that you could write a query by, general, select something from something, where something. But you just remember that much. Now go and spend a couple days doing it Figure out what kind of crazy things. Just select things from the student table and try to make a report just on the screen, just with the table. Be like, oh, neat, and you'll love yourself for it.
Yeah. And honestly, one thing that that I didn't never thought about until I really started doing my own development. Again, this is years ago when I first started getting into it. Was I didn't want to try to create something and have something broken out there. Whether it is on your test server or if you're not at a point where you have a test server, if there are ways to play within your production server, right? And it's just creating a page, and the only access to it is direct URL. It seems like such a silly thing to mention now, but back then, the idea of having something like that I'm just playing with and broken on your production server was scary enough to not do anything. And you never thought about well, as long as I don't put a link to it anywhere, then nobody's going to see it. So I just felt like it was worth mentioning out there that, you can create a page and start playing with something like TILA SQL and nobody's going to see it unless you give them that direct URL.
I'm going to share some code right away on the same ideal there. I'm going to put it on my screen just 1 second here. But on the same thing, it's just that I'm sure people who are listening have seen this, but if people who haven't seen this, it'll be new to them, but it's awesome. So, it's and then
insert Jeopardy music here.
Well, while you're looking that up, I'd like to point out for folks that may not.
I'm ready to share whenever.
Viewing the video right now, that one of our hosts has shaven recently.
It only took 40 minutes for someone to say something about it.
Well, and I shaved my face too.
Yeah, oh God.
I don't know how
I'm just saying, I'm feeling a Steven Seagal vibe going on here.
Oh,
I feel like you need to get an action movie going on.
Sometimes in the summer, I just do it. But here, so for those who are able to see and I've put this in Word because the best text editor there is.
You should have put it in Sumbits.
Yeah, right.
But now these are just actual user DCIDs on our own development server. But the point is that you could have an array of DCIDs here, or just one, whatever, and you could wrap any code you want in that, and then wrap your code in here. So if you just wanted to have, for instance, a menu pop up on a screen that was only available to you, or maybe a couple of your development users, you can just have it in here.
There you go.
What were you going to say, Eric?
No, nothing. I already called out the Steven Seagal look. That was my main goal for today's episode. That and the Hawaiian shirt barf. Please be sure to talk to Allison about that, friends.
Will do.
But yeah, so like Sean was saying, you could either have a page with direct URL, but you also may want to be trying to test things out that would modify core pages with page fragments and whatnot. And this would enable you to do that without affecting your regular users because it would only run if the user logged in is within this DCID set. If they're not, it would do nothing. So you don't even have to worry about breaking code. Super helpful for that respect.
Very cool. So we were talking about going to conferences in the summer. Obviously we've mentioned a lot of conferences over the span of all of our episodes, but I don't think we've ever actually said here's some times to go. I know PSUG, the national PSUG, is in the summer. This summer is in Vegas. I know that tends to be a hard sell for some districts, but I know a lot of states have their own PSUGs in the summer as well.
And the fall.
And the fall. Or just take the summer to plan out some of that professional development, plan out some of those conferences that you can try to get to. There's just a wealth of knowledge in all of them. Well, that I've been to anyway.
And on top of even the states having their own, there are so my province when we started in Manitoba on PowerSchool, my district was the third, and us and a couple other districts started kind of getting together on a regular basis. And before we knew it, that had grown, and I don't know what the number of districts are at as far as using PowerSchool, but it's like at 15 or 16, I want to say. I haven't been involved with that group in a few years now, but I imagine they still met prior to the pandemic, of course. And when we did meet, what a enlightening time, because you were able to, especially because you're all in the same boat when it comes to state reporting or provincial reporting, and especially in my province when it came to report cards, because they were provincially mandated report cards. You could be like, hey, we're trying to figure out how to do this, and it'd be dumbfounding if one district didn't pop up and go, oh yeah, we figured that one out. Someone's going to figure it out, and someone's going to then go up on the whiteboard and write it down. So for your own respective states or provinces or territories, whatever, if you have not found your local group, assuming you do have more than one district, PowerSchool district in your area, find it. If maybe the one doesn't exist and maybe there is only one or two PowerSchool districts, start one. Yep. Reach out. Exactly. You know what? Even if there's just 3 of you that get together once a month, maybe once every 2 months, if you haven't had the opportunity to do it, or you haven't even found maybe the PSUG forms and whatnot, you will find that first meeting probably so much more helpful than you can even imagine. Yep. And that's definitely a great thing in the summer to do, because especially because your counterparts in those other divisions are probably working all summer too, trying to figure things out, and having the same problems either you've come across or they're having the same problems that you will come across. Yep. And they're going to be able to enlighten you on that and tell you what to look out for, especially if you're new to PowerSchool.
And I think one piece that's kind of missing when people talk about PSUGs, and we even did it today, is we immediately start talking about the conferences, right? And we tend to forget to suggest that this user community, these user groups, they're not just here for conferences. No. Most of them are going to have a website. Or at least some sort of contact information between each other. Use those as contacts throughout the year. I know the psug.io is a huge one.
I'm pretty sure that's going to fold now that John Dunleavy retired.
Yeah, nobody else can handle it.
I will say that, though, that psug.io is kind of like the backbone of the PowerSchool community.
The bomb.
Sorry, Power Source. Power Source is great, obviously, but it's not the public community thing, right? And they know. I
am blown away by the people, the willingness for people to give their time for nothing other than the satisfaction of having helped some other user.
Yep.
And the detail in some of the responses, the research that's obviously gone into some of the responses to questions on that forum is mind-boggling. It's amazing.
Yeah. And if there's people we're slowly making our way through the list of regular contributors and people that are well recognizable on that forum, and we want to get to all of you. But go ahead and also throw in the comments of people you think we should have on the show. If you don't, please do. Suggest yourself, of course, because we've been asking that too. But also, if you've got other people that you think we should get on here, do it. Tell us. We want to hear it.
Yes, absolutely. Let us know. All right, guys.
So,
go ahead.
I think we're getting close to wanting to wrap things up, but there's one more thing I want to bring up. And I know both of you, Ryan and Sean, were kind of PowerSchool administrators in your districts before you came to MBA, yes? We had a really nice email come in from one of our viewers, though, last week, who is a PowerSchool administrator. And she said, I believe, that her boss, I don't remember if it was the superintendent, and guys, jump in and help me out if you do remember.
I'll dig it up right here.
Who had listened to some of our episodes and was kind of enlightened to wow, I didn't realize all of this stuff fed into what you're doing. And it made him kind of step back and think and go, maybe we need to look at these products. Maybe we need to approach things from a different perspective. So, and as you two were talking, you were talking about a lot about what you would do during the summers. And I really hope that anybody that's outside of that spectrum of the PS administrator that might be listening in is reflecting on, especially if you're in a supervisory position, providing the opportunity for your staff to do these things, because the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can empower your PS administrators to be able to have the skill set to implement some of what we're talking about, and if you don't have someone on staff who's capable, maybe it's something worth considering.
Yeah.
And I'll let you two chime in if you have anything to say, because again, as I've said a million times, I'm the guy that's never actually worked in schools.
You wouldn't make it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Did you find that email, Ryan?
You know what? There was. I found that one, but I also wanted to. It reminded me that at one point, way back, and I never ended up reading it.
No, we did have another email that we wanted to.
Well, he's digging.
And I asked her, and she said yes. So I mean, it's good. So we got an email from Allison Friday, an administrative assistant, PowerSchool coordinator at Clinton Public Schools in Clinton, Connecticut. She says, I just wanted to thank you guys for your podcast on demystifying SQL. I just watched it, and I finally decided to take the plunge. After half an hour, I've got select, from, where, and a bunch of where operators figured out. This is so cool. As much as I love Excel, I'm very much looking forward to screwing up my first join. Thanks for letting me know that it's okay to mess up, that I won't destroy anything, and how SQL is pronounced. I did take beginning SQL classes at PSUG University about 10 years ago, and the instructor was terrible. That is not an endorsement of us. I mean, people have their own opinions. I love PSUG. PSUG's great. Some, people have different experiences. But W3 schools, it looks so easy. Thanks so much. We're happy to get that email. I'm glad awesome. You learned from it. And I mean, I especially love that part where she's no longer scared to try out SQL because, exactly. If you won't screw anything up, because that's the biggest thing, try. And like we were kind of saying all this episode and last week or last 2 weeks ago, this is your time to try. Because exactly. Now you have the time to, if you're not sure about something, figure it out. Figure out why you're not sure. And
that email came in a little while ago, so I would love to hear an update. Comment down below or send us another email. Let us know how you're going.
We did get. I'll just throw out. I don't know. We haven't asked her, so I don't want to throw out her name yet. We'll ask for next episode. That one, because I don't want to put anyone on the spot if they don't want to be on the spot. But we've been getting a lot of nice comments from another reviewers, which I would love to share too.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for the emails. Thanks for the comments. We do enjoy doing this. We enjoy giving back to the community. Hopefully you enjoy it as well. So, but with that, I think we gave quite a few suggestions on things to do for the summer. So we'll leave you at that. If you have any questions, email us, sumbits@mba-link.com. Check out the swag store, link down below. And I guess we'll just see you next time.
Thanks we'll find next time we will have a guest. I think we'll be heading back that way. So had a little nice summer, relax, but see you then.
For sure. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Enjoy more episodes and learn more at mba-link.com.